Meeting to order. Melvina, if you would you give the invocation, please?
Erode galande o jule heliga handes gatino and he'll des gatanido o jule heligo. Neo heldido has the hando. Lord, follow in the footsteps of our parents, Lord. In Jesus, in your name we thank you. Amen.
Amen. Shelley, would you do roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Johnny Kidwell. Here. Sasha Black Fox Qualls. Here. Danny Callison. Here. Julia Coates. Here. Joe Deere. Mike Dobbins. Here. Kevin Easley. Lisa Hall.
Here.
Daryl Legg. Dora Petskowski. Here. Cody Poindexter.
Honey.
Joshua Sam. Here. Melvina Shotpouch. E.O. Smith. Condessa Teehee. Victoria Vasquez.
Honey.
We have a quorum.
Okay, if you've had a chance to look over the minutes, could I have a motion, please?
Second.
Have a motion, a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, first up on reports from the Marshal Service. Who do we have here? Marshal Roach, how are you, sir?
Morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
I'm glad you guys made it here safely, and for those of you that didn't come in, you're lucky. Stay at the house for a little bit, but it's getting better out there. I was looking over these this morning before I came in, and the things that were notable to me was the community patrols being up quite a bit, and the EDOs being down quite a bit, which is the emergency orders of detention. Some of the behavioral health stuff is still pretty. There are zeros across the board, so that's a good sign to me. You might look there that there's not a lot of warnings and verbal warnings and stuff that go on in the course of the day of a deputy marshal, and you might think, well, what are they doing? Well, it looks like they're in the communities more and more these days. I have about 72 marshals right now at this point, with about 10 in the hopper, so to speak, with HR back there, so that should get us up there around 82 within the next few months by spring. I had a few graduate, had 5 graduate out at FLETC this past month. It may not be on this, it'll probably be on your next rules packet. Very proud of those individuals. They did well, represented us well. One of our guys got the leadership award out there, it's a good one to get. It's a hard one. He wasn't a leader of the squad or the platoon. He was just a cadet in the ranks and got the leadership award. I thought that was noteworthy. And we had a squad leader out there too, so that's good. We're representing the nation well out at the Federal Academy still. I have a few going to start cleat, about 4 or 5 going to start cleat here the 1st of February. So in the endless cycle of let's get some marshals on the road, we're doing pretty well. The other things I kind of looked through briefly here that was a little interesting was we've had some uptick in the conservation type work. The Special Applications branch of the Marshal Service is basically to deal with all the weird stuff that's not necessarily in what you would think the day-to-day operations of a patrolman. So it's investigations at the Buffalo Ranch and deer hunting and poaching within the Cherokee Nation and sometimes outside the boundaries up at Chilocco. So we've been very busy. We've been doing our part with the cross-dep agencies. A notable one that I thought was interesting to me is we're cross-deputizing the Tulsa International Police. That's kind of an odd thing. It sits in our jurisdiction. And I've met with them a couple of times. They've requested some training. And most of the natives that fly out of Oklahoma, whether they be Creek or Cherokee or any other variety of Native Americans, they may come in contact with those police and they needed the authority to do something about them, or folks flying in to Tulsa. So that one was interesting to me. Is there any questions that this group has for me that I might be able to answer?
Does anybody have any questions for Marshal Roach? I'm assuming that we all know about, GRDA pulling their, put in a little, I guess, pulling their MOA with us. I don't know how big of effect that'll have, if any, but, it's more cosmetic than anything, I think, at this point for the reason it was done. But have you seen any blowback or fallout from that? I would assume that you haven't.
No, sir. Those things are kind of above my level, if you will, for my position at the chief of police. But for the most part, we still have authority over the rivers through the various cross deputizations that we have. Notably here in Cherokee County, Jason Chenault assured us that we had his full authority at any time to do what we needed to with the non-Indians that might normally be affected with GRDA. We turned in our GRDA cross-step cards. They asked for those, but it doesn't affect our authority or our response in any way other than we just wouldn't write a ticket on behalf of the Grand River Dam Authority. So it's more something that needs to work out at a level above my head, but we're all doing well and no one's in any more or less danger as far as law enforcement goes.
I appreciate that, and that's really I think what I was getting at in the end result is, is as long as everybody stays safe, and that's the main objective anyway.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, good report, sir.
Thank you.
All right, from the Office of the Attorney General, Chad Harshaw.
Good morning,
Morning, sir.
ladies and gentlemen of the council. I do have a couple of updates that I'd like to share, and one is a significant piece of work that our office has been focused on, engaged in, is Principal Chief's Criminal Law Reform and Planning Task Force. We had our initial meeting since we've met last to kind of walk through some of the areas that we're looking at, in particular, criminal sentencing reform, our reentry program, jail arrangements. And we had a lot of positive dialogue and good conversation about getting to some of the finer points of this. We've seen an incredible growth in our criminal justice system over the past 4 years. Last year alone, I think we were very close to 4,000 criminal cases that were filed, which is a significant number, particularly when you look at past years. And so now is a good time, and I appreciate Chief Hoskin establishing this task force to kind of look and see, where do we have code revisions, what areas can we improve on, what does our reentry program look like based on the caseloads that we have, and also in particular, what does our jail arrangement and agreement situation look like, and how is this working with the numbers that we're seeing coming across. So we still have some work to do, meeting with that group, and look forward to putting together a final report with some recommendations and conclusions once that process concludes. There's a number of course, always a lot of litigation going in and around McGirt-related issues, but there's two of note that I'd like to provide an update on, and one is the Treat 3 case, as we call it, and that is the litigation surrounding the veto override from the last special legislative session that extended the motor vehicle compact that we have, along with compacts for other tribes. That case has been briefed. Public hearings have been held. The court has essentially closed the record, and we're awaiting a decision as to some of the challenges that were brought by Governor Stitt's office. That decision is imminent. I think it could drop at any day, but definitely soon we'll have a resolution on that topic. And another case that we're monitoring, although we're not a party to, is a tribal tax case, the Strobel case, as we call it. And that is a individual tax protest of a tribal citizen who worked for their tribe and was assessed state income tax. They won various levels of the Oklahoma Tax Commission appeals process, ultimately lost after a final hearing, and then appealed to the Oklahoma Supreme Court. Oral arguments were held in that case last week. The record's for the most part closed, and we're awaiting a decision in that case too. So hopefully next time I'm present before this body, I'll have some clarity on the Supreme Court's final decision making on those two cases. And with that, still have a lot of work to do in the Attorney General's office, and a lot of good folks that are helping move a lot of these priorities along and working on the litigation pieces. And if there's any questions on the topics I raised or others, I'd love to take them.
Is there any questions for General Harshaw? If you can, what are they asking for that's different in the compact? Are they wanting to give us to give more of a percentage? I mean, how much is it? How much more? Can you say?
We're in preliminary discussions on what a longer-term compacting arrangement looks like. We have decades of precedent for compacting arrangements that work with tobacco and motor vehicle tags. Over 20 years we've had these working well. What you have seen recently with the Chickasaw Nation is a compact very similar to what they've operated in the past. So with respect to motor vehicle tags, we have a very different system. They have a system that they utilize the state infrastructure, almost like a vanity tag arrangement, whereas we have a direct issuance. So there's some nuances that are quite a bit different with our compact than theirs. But essentially what the Chickasaw have executed is along the lines of what they've had in the past, and sounds to me like that works well for them, but we have a little bit of a different arrangement, and we are having some conversations on that front, and hopefully they'll be productive.
Yeah. Well, hopefully things work out, and it's always, good when we can work things out, but if we can't, we have our own hunting fishing system. So, if worse comes to worse, we may have our own tag office.
Right.
So,
Well, and I do think it's important to keep in mind with respect to compacting is it's not a dictation of terms by either party as against the other. It is a mutual agreement that has to make sense. And we have infrastructure in place in a way that we've done business for a long time. That has to be considered, and that has to be respected. And so, again, it's my hope that we can reach agreeable terms, but at the end of the day, it has to be a mutually beneficial arrangement.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we appreciate your support and everything you do for the nation. All right, thanks, sir.
thank you.
All right, next up, FOIA GRA reports. Gwen Terrapin. Is Gwen here? Come on up, Corey.
Good morning, council. I don't believe Gwen's available at this moment, but I would be glad to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Chief Staff? All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
From the Election Commission, Marcus Fears.
Good morning.
Hey, Marcus.
Good morning. You guys have my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Does anybody have any questions for Marcus? All right. Appreciate you being here, Marcus.
Hey, thank you. Y'all be safe.
From the Tax Commission, Sharon Swepston. Here comes Chief of Staff. I don't see her on.
I would be happy to take any questions for the Tax Commission.
Does anybody have any questions on the Tax Commission? All right, thanks, sir. And from Self-Governance, Shauna Miles. Stay up there. You might as well just put a mailbox up there.
Okay. All right. Would also be glad to take any questions for self-governance.
Do we have any questions for Self-Governance? All right. From the Gaming Commission, Janice Purcell, and she is on remote. Janice, can you hear me?
Hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, I submitted my report in gaming, but there were some items in the packet that I wanted to point out to you. One, I focused on our licensing department, and what they do is they fingerprint all of the key and PMO employees for operations, and key employees are like the dealers, drop and count, and PMOs are the primary management officials, and you have to look at the standard for it. They can hire and fire employees, and they set up policy. And so when we fingerprint, we also have to do, and I gave a sample in there, what's called a suitability determination. We refer to it as a NOR, notice of results, and that has to go to NIGC within 60 days of that person being employed by operations. So it is, and this is for all the casinos. We have licensing agents at the larger casinos, but they also have offices at the smaller casinos, for instance, South Coffeyville. So those people that are going to be employed will not have to drive all the way to Catoosa. And I just wanted to point that out, that that's one item that licensing does, and it is, there's a lot of oversight from NIGC on that. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Janice? All right, Janice, thank you. Good report.
Thank you.
And from Human Resources, Samantha Hendricks.
Good mornings. But I thought it would be kind of cool to have my partner, my colleague that I wanted to introduce as my guest, who helps make a lot of this happen for me. So Paula Starr, I've worked with her for a very, very long time. We partner very strongly together as far as recruitment efforts and the electronic piece. So Paula?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I wanted to talk about one specific initiative today to you all that I think you've heard a little bit about, but
Before you
Yes.
start, introduce yourself and
Oh.
tell us what you do.
sorry. I am Paula Starr. I'm the Chief Information Officer, Executive Director for Cherokee Nation IT. But we've been working on one initiative that I really wanted to highlight for you all this morning. It is an initiative to connect Cherokee citizens with Cherokee jobs. And that's jobs across not just government and health, but also across our C&B entities of Cherokee Federal and Cherokee Nation Entertainment as well. Chief of Staff Bunch first brought this idea forth, and he said, think of it as a Cherokee version of Indeed. If you've ever used Indeed to look for a job, you can go out there and put your own profile out, you can search for jobs, and that's what we're really looking to build, and to build that within the Gadoogie portal. So the two goals that we have are, one, make it easier for citizens to find jobs across all those entities. If you go out and search today, you're going to see, if you go look at Gov, Health, Entertainment, Federal, you're going to see there's over 650 open jobs out there across all of those entities, but you have to go to multiple platforms to find them. We don't want to get rid of the multiple platforms. We don't want to touch those, but what we want to do is bring out all of the jobs that are in those platforms to one spot that's easy to search. What I have found when I've talked to IT professionals who are Cherokee and want to serve their nation, they don't necessarily care what entity it's with. They don't care if it's Gov or Federal or if it's Health. They really just want to bring their skills to apply for their nation, and so we want to make that easier to do. Our second goal is really to help our citizens indicate that they are open for work. Right now, CNB and Stephanie Sapola in particular are doing a lot of great work to try to find Cherokee citizens and to bring them and to apply them against CNB jobs. But what we're missing right now, we've got a lot of data on our citizens, but what we're missing is whether they're open to work, what their skill sets are, and also just what their geographic preferences are. There are all those things that we really would love to know about our citizens who are open to work and try to connect them back to jobs. This is an initiative, again, it's in the planning stages, but I did want to mention that to you all this morning so that you would have an idea of what is to come, and the terrific collaboration that we're achieving across Cherokee Nation government as well as CNB. And I'll take any questions if you have them.
Does anybody have any questions? Candace?
Well, I just think this is absolutely exciting. It's wonderful. I know that Human Resources has made a lot of great strides in the time that Samantha has been there as executive director, and seeing the partnership between IT to really strengthen and make our HR, I would say, more agile in today's marketplace is really exciting. I understand that, we still have, there's still strides to be taken, but I also know that IT is really the lifeblood of all of our programs, HR especially, and I'm excited to hear about these developments and looking forward to having another resource to offer to our citizens. Because I know that this is something that Councilor Kidwell hears quite often, people who want to come home. People who want to come home and they want to work for Cherokee Nation, or they want to do something for their nation in some capacity. So I think this is a great resource, a great opportunity, and thank you for coming and sharing with us today about it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time, Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Councilman Kidwell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ma'am, thank you for being here today. Councilwoman T brings up a good point. We talk about citizens wanting to come back home. We get that quite often. I know Dr. Coates gets that quite often. On the CNB side, for a while, we had a designated recruiter that we called them, that we publicize continuously. If you're looking for a job, here's the website. Here is the one recruiter that you go talk to. What happens most of the time, as you probably understand, we get well, I submitted my resume and I never heard back from anybody. Those calls always will come back to us. We're trying to minimize that circular process. On the Cherokee Nation side, on our governmental side, our healthcare side, as we move forward with this, any plans to provide us with a designated recruiter contact information that we can give to at-large, those 350,000 at-large citizens that at some point in time all want to call us and ask us if there's any jobs open?
Yes, the answer is yes.
That's a great answer. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well, and I think that point is well taken to try to grab data around submissions, right, Cherokee
Yeah.
submissions, and perhaps if we're coming out of Gadoogie portal with this, then we've got a better insight into, they came from the portal, so we know they're Cherokee.
Sure.
And then we can follow the life cycle from there on out.
Yeah, and if I could bring up one more thing without taking up too much of
you're
everybody's
good.
time, I'm going to dig a little further down into the bag of tricks here. The survey that was sent out, I don't know, a year ago to mainly at-large citizens that said, hey, if you're looking, we would like you to come back. What's keeping you from coming back to the Cherokee Nation and working? What are your, what areas would you want to work in? Is it employment? Is it jobs? Is it houses? What do you need? That survey went out to 300 and something thousand people. We've never really seen, I know this isn't your bag here, and I understand that, but the data that was collected from that survey might also be very helpful in your endeavors to be able to bring people back to the nation, wherever that data might exist. I know that we need
And that
to
was
tap
in the-
a couple of different doors to find that, but it's out there somewhere. We've never really seen the results of that data.
That was in the portal as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do have access to that data.
Okay, so it's all there, and
It is.
we're able to access all that information.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll get off my soapbox. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Callison.
Yeah, I too want to say that this is a great thing. I know before I got on council several years ago, I made a comment, Chief Hoskins and I were talking, my son, Cherokee Health all the way up through, helped pay for his education, got a degree from OSU. Then he comes home and can't find a job, and he wrote the HR director in an email about 3 years ago and said, hey, you've done all this for me, why don't you supply a job for the Cherokee kids that comes back? And I think this is a really good thing because, we do educate them, we do put them out there, we do train them, and they need to have the opportunity to come back and work for the tribe,
Absolutely.
once we do that with it. And it's a really good thing. And the second thing is that I'm excited that you're giving us a preview before, pardon the expression, you ask us to fund it. We know what's going on, we know where it's going to go, and we know exactly what we've got to do with it. And where you're trying to accomplish that. And that's a big thing to me as a counselor because, just seeing a number up there that, whatever it is that it has to be funded and knowing what it's going to be used for is very helpful to me as we go along. So thank you very much, and I'm excited to see this get off and going.
Thank you, and I appreciate the audience, I truly do.
Is there any more questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. As we're talking about these job postings being announced, is there a way to see when those postings are opened and closed? I know for internal applicants, they can see that information, but externally, it's not on the website.
Okay, I'll let Sam.
I believe so. Let me check into that to see what we can do to list that out there.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? I'd like to say it's good to see you here. There's been several councilmen asked that IT department be come and report to us, and I agree with the councilman. That's one of the most important things in the Cherokee Nation. From the Gadoogie portal on to everything. Security and how things run and how people get access to information is so imperative to have service and more people. So just like to say thank you, and We look forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you all so much.
All right, under old business, none pending. Turn my page. Under new business, give me just, okay. Number one, Mr. Easley, would you take that, please?
This is a resolution confirming the appointment of Dwight Birdwell as member of the Cherokee Nation Gaming Commission. I put that in the form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Birdwell, are you on the feed? It shows him. It shows him muted. I think, can you unmute? Yeah. He should be able to do it himself.
How about now?
Yep, we got you now.
Thank you. Apologize.
No problem. All right, you want to tell us a little bit about why you want this position?
Well, for many years in the past, I served the Cherokee people, and this was an opportunity to serve again. I think it's a great opportunity to do that, and if you are willing to accept me, I would appreciate the opportunity to serve.
All right, sir. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Birdwell? Yes, Mr. Kidwell, go ahead.
I don't really have a question, Mr. Birdwell, but I just wanted to say that I think, in my opinion, you are one of the most outstanding Cherokee Nation citizens that we have, and I am 1,000% happy to support and sponsor you onto the Gaming Commission. Thank you for being who you are, sir.
Thank you for your kind words, sir.
Anybody else? Councilman Deere? Councilman Callison? Candessa? Cody? Everybody? All right, add them all. Well, I'd just like to say, sir, that, it's been an honor to visit with you in the past, and have enjoyed speaking with you, and I'll just say it would be very beneficial for the Cherokee Nation to have you, in my opinion, to be in this position. So, you have 100% my full support.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the kind words.
Anybody else? All right. All in favor? All opposed? All right. Motion carries. Congratulations, sir. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
All right. Number two, Candessa, take that, please.
This is a resolution confirming the nomination of Janice Purcell to the District Court of the Cherokee Nation, and I put this forward in the form of a motion.
We have a motion, and we have a second. Councilman Paczkowski.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a friendly amendment to correct the term to February 2024 to February 2028,
Okay.
rather than 2027, yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Is this are we adding a judge or is she replacing a judge?
Adding.
This is an addition? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any questions for Ms. Purcell? All right, Janice, tell us, are you there? Is she there? Let's see.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Tell us about why you want to be a district judge.
Okay. So I started my legal career in 1986 when I graduated from Oklahoma City School of Law, and I was admitted to the bar in the same year, 1986. I started out with working at Legal Aid and J and then Muskogee, which was, during that time period, I did a lot of civil cases. I also did court appointments for the judge, if he so assigned, and also juveniles. I then went to work for Cherokee Nation, and I did mostly the roads, unemployment cases, and anything that came up. I was the interim director of law and justice. I then went into private practice, and while I was in private practice, I was on the Criminal Justice Act panel for the Eastern District of Oklahoma. I have practiced in state, tribal, and federal courts. And on the panel, there's a 18-page application. You have to be sponsored, and you have to be knowledgeable about the federal sentencing guidelines and also different offenses, because they have an offense level and then look at your criminal history as well. During that time period, I also argued before the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. One of the cases, United States versus Rocky, is published opinion, and it's still precedent. It mostly deals with the sentencing guidelines, because there are factors that need to be taken into consideration whenever someone is being sentenced in federal court. And during this time period, I was also working in state and tribal court. And I also was an adjunct at Northeastern, mainly teaching legal research and writing. I served, prior to becoming executive director of gaming, I served as a commissioner. Gaming Commission is an administrative agency, which means gaming has to comply with the Administrative Procedures Act when we draft legislation, such as the new licensing procedures. So we have to follow NIGC, which is National Indian Gaming Commission, also Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, and the Tribal State Compact. I have spent over 20 years practicing law and have worked very diligently at it. I would appreciate your consideration as district judge. I would work my hardest, as I always have, to make a good district judge for my tribe. Thank you.
Councilman Coates.
I just wanted to say, in looking over your resume, Ms. Purcell, I really like everything that in Supreme Courts right now, so I will be very happy to support this, and in fact, I would like to be added as a sponsor, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Does anybody else have any questions for Janice? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? All opposed? All right. Congratulations, Janice.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone.
All right, number 3. Candessa, would you take that, please?
This is an act amending Title 20 of the Cherokee Nation Code annotated, and I put this forward in the form of a motion.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Kidwell, Callison, Deere. All right, number 4, Councilman Poindexter, would you take that, please?
Sure. The Durbin Feeling Language Preservation Act -2024 permanent reauthorization. And I put this in form of a motion.
I have a motion and a second. Councilman Pitzkowski.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would like to also make another friendly On page 2, under section B, number 2, titled Kenwood Language and Culture Reserve, where it states located on approximately 1,268.4 acres, it actually needs to read more than 1,400 acres. Okay?
All right, do we have any discussion? Kidwell, Deere, Callison? Is everybody? Hall, is everybody? Yep, all. Okay, any more discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, Councilman Sam, would you take that, please?
Yes, this is a comprehensive Cherokee Nation Education Scholarship Act, and I put this in form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Councilman Petskowski?
I'd like to be added as a sponsor.
And Kidwell and Callison and Deere and Melvina. Everybody? Everybody again? Is there any discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 6 is for discussion only, National Congress of American Indians, NCAI update. Councilman Deere.
Yeah, I just want to go to give a quick update after the election. I thank you guys that have made that trip down to New Orleans and spent your time down there, and appreciate his support for the area vice president. Mark McCuro is the president. He's from Pachanga Band. Bryden Whedon was elected as vice president. He's the Marshal. David Wirtz, the treasurer from Chickasaw Nation. Nick Lewis is from Lummi, not Lumbee, and they are all federally recognized. So the update is we've had our first executive session, and we are starting a task force because we're federally recognized is where we're going for. Because when NCI was set up, they were supposed to be the voice of federally recognized tribes, and we've identified that there's some that got into that are not. So we have talked with legal counsel, and we have already got a handful of groups, and we'll be setting that group up. The council already has found a handful that already can be removed. So we will start changing that. The task force is going to go through the rest of them and check with the bylaws and deal with the council. So that task force is making the review under the membership, Article 3, Section B, 3 and 4, under the 276 members. Because when we go to Congress, we want to reflect what's happening in Indian country, because we are fighting fake groups. You know, we don't call them fake tribes because they're not tribes. A lot of them are 501c3s. And that's what we are taking initiative. The second thing we identified is the fentanyl problem we have across, not just here in Oklahoma, but across all the native countries. So we are setting up how to work with the fentanyl across the country, because the United States has given money to different communities for the fentanyl problem, and some of those other tribes are going to try to partner with them against fighting the fentanyl. They're looking at getting an embassy. They're looking at a building to have more presence in DCs, partnering with Congress. So previously, they would only go every so often. Now we're going to start partnering up, because there's 12 of us across the country, and we already know who's here in our district, so we're going to change it up. And I might partner with the guys in Washington, in the state of Washington, and when we go to Congress every other month to go meet with different congressmen, so we can reflect that it's just not them dealing with their congressman, because they already have that relationship. So we're going to have more presence there with that. So we leave for executive session tomorrow to create more on the task force. I leave tomorrow. I'll be back Thursday. And then we have winter session February 11th through the 15th. So we'll be there then with that. So we're probably going to start doing quarterly updates as things change, because NCI is changing a lot of things going forward because of the problem. The number one problem is the fake groups, and that's what we're attacking right now. So we're going to go through that and be the voice for that. And so if you have any questions, or you want me to ask any questions when we go to DC, or have these executive councils or at res, let me know. I'm more than willing to just voice that for you. So for that, Speaker, if you guys have any questions, let me know.
Councilman Coates.
Yeah, thank you. Councilman Deere, I just, I guess my question and a concern that if you would to voice it, although my question is if maybe it's already being voiced, but I hear the language of fake tribes, and I know what you're talking about, and there are plenty of those out there, that's for sure. But there are also tribes that are not federally recognized and yet are legitimate communities. And I live currently in a state where there are many such groups that, you know, really deserve to have federal recognition. And yet, it's such an expensive and such a difficult project at this point that many of them just, it's hard for them to know where they can find the resources to go through that process at this time. And so my question is, whether there is discussion or a way or attention or awareness already existing or that could be brought to make distinctions between the different kinds of groups that may not have federal recognition. Some of them shouldn't have it and hopefully will never get it, but there are others that, you know, are legitimate Indian communities, and I think it's a real dilemma across Indian America about how do you incorporate those that are valid, you know, organizations. And so how is NCAI addressing that dilemma?
The task force, we know there is some, like California, for instance, have a lot of mission bans. And so legal counsel is going to go through because there's a different way with the federally recognized and different process. So the legal counsel is going to vet those. And they're going to start looking and going through each one to see how they got into the process, if they legally got into the process. Because we agree that if you're federally recognized, then that's perfect. If you're a state tribe going through the process, then that's as well. The final thing is we want you to be at least in that process federally recognized, not just trying to get money from the states and just leaving it there. So that question's already come up. We've been on Zooms talking about that. So that's the process they're going to go through. That's what the task force is going to do, but we are going to do it legally with the council and research, because there is some things, when they came from Europe, things were lost in different areas of the country. So like 1970, 1972, there was some of those. And that will be up to the legal counsel in that process for him to identify that. So that question has came up, Councilor Coates. So, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, good report, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, are there any announcements? I'm glad you all made it here safely. It's pretty dicey a little bit this morning, so appreciate you being here and appreciate everybody who made it to report in person, as we always do. Our next scheduled meeting, tentatively scheduled for Thursday, February 29th at 1 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? We're adjourned.